Good morning. This is Dylan Jovine with Behind the Markets. Happy Wednesday. Today's Wednesday, April 15th, and we all know someone who has had and died from pancreatic cancer. We see these people. I've seen them many times in my life, and you hear a friend has pancreatic cancer, and you say to yourself, I'm so sorry. Because of all the major cancers, pancreatic cancer has the lowest 5-year survival rate at 13%. It's basically a death sentence. And I remember seeing a friend of mine who was Mr. Colorado, this muscular guy, Ken, who just serious, he looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I remember he got pancreatic cancer, and 9 months later, he had withered and was a skeleton with those vacant eyes, and he passed away. And I just remember thinking to myself, my goodness, pancreatic cancer is brutal. Finally, we have some good news on pancreatic cancer, and I've written down some notes here. Revolution Medicines said its pancreatic cancer drug, Daraxonrasib, succeeded in phase 3 trials. The drug almost doubled typical survival. People who took it lived for 13.2 months versus 6.7 months for chemo. And this is a big deal. It's basically a treatment-changing outcome, or what doctors would refer to as a practice-changing outcome, meaning it is such a big deal that it's going to change how they treat pancreatic cancer. And of course, this company is going to file for FDA approval. And it's interesting, Revolution Medicines, a company that, really focuses on targeting what we call RAS mutations, which really drive tumor growth, generally speaking. And they are present in about 90% of pancreatic cancers, about 30% of regular cancers. And we've looked at companies over the years that try to inhibit that growth, that mutation there. A lot of companies have focused on RAS mutations. So this is a RAS mutation drug, and what this drug tries to do is inhibit. And I always think of inhibitors as like a door stop that just stops something from happening. It stops this from growing or replicating, whatever it is. And I really started looking at this drug last week when former Republican Senator Ben Sasse, who was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer last year and was given only months to live, shared his experience during a talk with the Times. And he said his tumors had shrunk by 76% since he started taking the drug. Also, in addition, it's not all scot-free. There is a cost for it. There are, quote, crazy side effects like a facial rash. So anyway, the company is filing, so there's nothing great that comes without a cost, not yet at least. They haven't figured that out or fine-tuned this, but the company, Revolution Medicines, will be seeking approval for second-line treatment with the FDA. And right now, it's conducting phase 3 trials for newly diagnosed patients in pancreatic cancer. And that's a very, very important distinction. Second-line treatment basically means that after the first line of treatment failed, they use their drugs. And this did great then. So now the question is, how well does it do if you move it to the front line? So it becomes a first-line treatment. So when someone just gets cancer, pancreatic cancer, you give this to them first instead of second. And there's a lot of upside. And I bring this up because it's great news for pancreatic cancer sufferers and for all of us who wish we had something like this to tell a friend who is going through it, but also because it really speaks to this company, Revolution Medicines, jumped like 40 points this week on this news, of course, like 35, 40%, really speaks to a couple of things here. Number one, how cheap biotech stocks have been in general. They have been so depressed, really. They're seriously one of the cheapest sectors in the S&P 500 right now. And a lot of the companies that we have in our Biotech Insider model portfolio, they're so cheap and they do things like this. And they're trading at $3, $4 a share, down from 10 or 15. And they're just wonderful opportunities. They're doing great things. They have drugs that are just doing these gangbusters things for cancer, which is where we tend to focus, our research is in cancer because of all the revolutionary things happening in cancer and the market side there. And frankly, there's a personal motive for that too, because I've had too many people I know die of it, as we all have. So I'm very, very excited about this news. And even more so, we have a bunch of companies that have FDA approvals coming up, or they're pushing, they have a successful drug on the market, their stock has been sold off. really stupid cheap. And they have a bunch of FDA approvals coming up. They're in front of the FDA for drugs that look very successful, that very likely or might get FDA approval, which sends these stocks soaring when it happens. So you're a Biotech Insider member, take a look at the Biotech Insider model portfolio. We have some great things in there for you, and they're selling at historically cheap prices. Anyway, that's all I have. Have a wonderful day. I will see you tomorrow.